Riveting Radio Real Estate, and Don Pannell is in studio with us again this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good to see you here on the edge of Christmas, and this might be a good, obviously it takes time to close, but say, hey, honey, guess what I got for Christmas?
I bought you a house for Christmas. Wouldn't that be something?
Would you say that that's probably a tough one?
That's a tough one.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, and boy, I don't think most people would like to be surprised by a house.
I'm thinking of those scenes in The Office. Remember that TV show, The Office? So Jim buys his old parents' house for Pam and him, and I think if I were to do that, I would have to make sure I build a large dog house.
That's right. That's right.
Because that's where I'm staying for the next 30 years or something like that.
I always even questioned a car, but a house would be even more so. I don't know.
All right, let's wrap up this alphabet. It's taken us the whole year, it seems like, to get to the ABCs of real estate.
It has. I think we started, the first part of January. And
Very well could have.
But good information.
How I keep you coming back, Don.
That's right.
I just keep asking questions.
I'll have to figure out something else for next year, I guess.
What are we working
start
on
backwards.
today? There we go.
Yeah. Well, we're going to try and get through W, X, Y, and Z today.
All right.
And that should be okay because some of them are, pretty self-explanatory.
Okay.
So W stands for walkthrough, and this is a final inspection that you conduct before you actually sign the papers. And not everybody does this, but it's really a good idea.
Okay.
Because what happens is, you're there for the inspection, and you don't always get a chance to check out and make sure that everything that you asked for to be done in the inspection is actually done. I mean, you may get copies of receipts and that kind of thing, but it's always a good idea to just kind of do a walkthrough and make sure that this is still what you thought it was going to be. I mean, that there hasn't been some major damage in the meantime or something like that. So it's something that we set up with the seller and the seller's agent and make sure that everything is, that we schedule a time to go do that. And it's usually the buyer and the buyer's agent that do that walkthrough and just make sure everything's still the way you expect it before you actually sign the papers. So, and then another thing too is that there is a clause in the contract that says that everything that's left behind by the seller when you actually sign the papers becomes the property of the buyer, and so the buyer needs to make sure that they're okay with that. I mean, it's if there's a bunch of garbage and stuff stacked around, they obviously don't want to inherit that.
Right.
And so they want to make sure that you have some time to contact the seller and say, hey, you got to clean this up.
Huh. Yeah.
So it doesn't happen often, but it does every once in a while. So it's a good idea to just plan on doing that. And it's usually, like I say, a couple of days before you sign the final papers.
And so what happens? So I'm just going to, in my own personal home buying experience, we're just going to throw this out there. We walked into the house, we did the walkthrough, we saw the place, we really liked it. In the laundry room, there was a beautiful washer and dryer. We put that into part of the offer. Now, if we were to not do a walkthrough, we get the keys, we show up, and those are gone. What happens?
Then it'd be a matter of going back to the seller and showing them the contract, but you could potentially open yourself up for some lengthy back and forth and litigation, that kind of thing.
Wow. Okay.
So it's a good idea to just kind of check those things just to make sure.
All right. Good one.
So that's W. Yeah. X is kind of a funny one. X stands for X marks the spot.
Right. And that's either where you sign or where your home is on a map?
In this case, it's where you sign, And the only thing that I wanted to comment on that is that if you haven't done this process for a while or never, you will be amazed at how many times you have to sign your name and your initials and the date. And by the time you get all through, you're pretty clear on what the date is.
Yeah, you know what your date is. Your hand is cramped.
Yes, exactly.
And your signature at the first page versus the last page are from a beautiful, nice signature to a...
You're right. I just get this thing over with. Yeah. So actually, making the offer on the house is just the start of it, because then you've got all of the loan papers and the closing documents and all this kind of stuff. So be prepared to sign your name multiple times.
It's a couple-hour process, that last.
Sometimes it is. Depending on the. Sometimes it can go pretty quick if it's like a cash sale or something like that. Then it's easy. But sometimes there's a stack a mile high of papers that you have to sign, and they walk in with it, and you kind of go, ooh.
Should have brought a lunch or something.
Exactly, exactly. So, but just be prepared for that.
Okay.
Y is kind of a weird one too. It's something that I don't really even know what this is, but it stands for yield spread premium. So the description is the amount a lender pays a mortgage officer for selling a loan with a higher interest rate than the par rate. So most people realize that when you get your loan through a lender, they may or may not hold on to that loan.
Yeah.
Chances are most of them will sell it to another loan organization.
And we saw a lot of that in 8, 9, 10,
yes,
20,
yes.
20.
And it still happens. There are a couple of local lenders who will hold loans in-house, but those are kind of few and far between. Most of them want to sell it to somebody who does that.
Yeah.
For So if you sign your loan documents with A bank, for example, you may be getting billing statements and stuff from B bank because
they've purchased your loan.
Yeah. So just be aware of that. Yeah. And I'm not sure exactly what this yield spread premium thing is, but I guess it was the only thing they could think of to start with a Y.
I mean, to me, and I this is just me thinking out loud, but it sounds to me it's kind of like a, I don't want to use the word kickback, but I will say it's something more of an incentive.
Yeah.
To keep it around, like you were saying.
Right. Yeah. I'm not real sure, but anyway, I think it is just a case of that was the only thing they could think of that starts with Y.
Right. Well, you got to get the whole alphabet in.
That's right. And Z. To get a drum roll for this, I guess the last of the alphabet. Z stands for zero lot lines, and that's pretty self-explanatory. It's where it's built. The house is built directly on the property line, either in the front or the side or the back. This doesn't happen very often in residences.
Right.
Happens fairly often in commercial properties where you see here's the sidewalk and here's the building.
Yeah.
So some jurisdictions have regulations against that. So you're going to want to check if you're buying a vacant lot, for example, and you're planning to build a house on it. It would be a good idea to check with the jurisdiction.
Right of ways and.
Right, and do they have a
visuals
and a setback? Do they have a? Usually, most places will have a setback on the side, so you have to have X number of feet between your structure and the structure next door. So it's a good idea to check.
Is it easy for, and I can't think of the name of the person that goes and finds these lot lines. Like if you need to, or if you
surveyor.
Surveyor, yeah. Mm-hmm. Is it easy for them to find your stakes?
Sometimes not. It can be an expensive operation. Usually, if your property is in a city, say, you pretty much usually are pretty clear on where the corners are.
Yeah.
But you get out into rural areas and.
Sometimes it's that rock over there,
exactly,
and that tree over there.
Yeah, and so a surveyor can be anywhere from $500 to $1,500 to come out and find those things for you. And sometimes they don't, and sometimes they find things that you don't expect. I mean,
sure.
You've heard cases, I'm sure of.
Is there a time? And I know we went through the alphabet, and I don't remember this as one of the letters, but is there ever a time where you would want to do this before you enter into the agreement? You want to know specifically. I have heard stories in my neighborhood that neighbors scuffling across lot lines, and somebody would build their fence, and it turns out now it's on their property.
Right. That does happen. Yeah. And so if you are concerned at all that might be going on, it might be worth it to hire a surveyor and make sure, that everything is, and again, especially if you're buying vacant land in a rural area, it might be a really good idea to. I had one in Union one time where when you looked at the drawing on the county's website, it showed the property line going right through the garage.
Uh-huh.
So we kind of said, well, wait a minute, and so in that case, he did pay for a survey, the buyer. And it turns out that it was good. It was back, but it
looked different.
Yeah, it looked different on because the county is takes the overhead photo and kind of draws the lines on there. So fortunately, he was able to prove that the garage was in the right place.
Those satellite images are definitely not 100% accurate.
Not
especially
100%.
on like Google and things like that. I would.
Yeah, it's a good place to start. Yeah. But sometimes they're not as accurate as you would hope they would be. So anyway, but yeah, do check and make sure, especially if you want to build.
Sure.
What the requirements are as far as setbacks, that kind of thing. So
Dawn, how can folks get in touch with you?
they can call me at 360-490-4493 or come by and see me on the corner of 3rd and Railroad at the John L. Scott office. If I'm not there, they will know where I am, and I would love to sit down and maybe make 2019 the year you buy and sell your house.
That would be wonderful, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you,
It's
Jeff.
great to see you, and look forward to more great conversations next year.
Yes, and I hope everybody has a very, very Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday
Happy holidays.
Good family time and nice relaxing
Yeah,
season.
a couple days of relaxation is in store, I think, for all of us.
I think that sounds good.